So I brought this up with the Congresswoman earlier. There were some executive orders last night or last evening. One of them was about defense acquisition reform, which I think is pretty much in the DIU wheelhouse. Could I get maybe your reaction, your feedback, your thoughts on that one in particular?
Great excitement. DIU is a huge proponent of OT authority. We've done 550 CSOs ourselves in the 10 years that we have been around. We have to move at the speed and scale of commercial technology, and this is another great step towards the ability to do that. I think it builds on the software memo that Secretary Hegseth signed a month or two ago as well. So it's really exciting. The other thing that I've been thinking more about as we speed up acquisition, we also need to speed up the other part so that all of the different aspects of getting commercial technology into the hands of the warfighter goes fast. So, budgeting, we can talk a little bit about the agile fielding line that Congress has given to DIU. That allows us to go a little bit faster. So we're also going to need to figure out how do we continue to speed up budgeting and how do we speed up cybersecurity and ATOs and all of the other aspects as well that clearances so that companies can get in.
So what are some of these most pressing topics or projects the Pentagon has on its plate right now that the commercial world could jump in on?
One thing that continues to be true is that commercial tech can be used across so many different aspects of what the department does. I mean, even in DIU, we're thinking about everything from energy and nuclear power and how is that going to go onto installations, those sorts of things, all the way through to biosurveillance, to the things that we talk more about in terms of AI and drones and all of those. The truth is, across every single aspect, there is commercial technology out there. So yes, we're super excited in particular about software, about the role of AI and what it's allowing us to do differently. But I think that the real message for commercial technology across so many areas, if you're not thinking about how this could be applicable to the DoD, you should be.
I was going to give you bonus points for not saying AI, but you said it at the end. Speaking of these customers and the people you're dealing with day to day, what's the number one complaint you hear from those folks who might not be familiar with dealing with selling to the Pentagon or dealing with like an Army acquisition shop?
Yeah. I continue to be impressed by all the people who want to get into this game. Selling into the Department of Defense, especially commercial technology, is not for the faint of heart. And we celebrate all of the veterans who learned lessons, when they were in uniform and have an idea and want to get going. I think as impressive are the people I'm meeting. I was meeting with a company yesterday. It's a bunch of 30-year-olds who have no military experience whatsoever, happened upon this big, hairy problem, and think of this as their way to serve as well. So number one, you have to come in with that energy and realizing this is not for the faint of heart. I think what's still hard and that we continue, and I'm really making it a focus this year to make further progress on, is demand signal and really knowing, what are the areas, that question you asked before, that we need to be focusing on, as well as what I hit on in the first answer to the question, which is what are those other scaling barriers beyond financial to make it easier for companies to do the work and for us to get that technology in for the warfighter.
There's some thought out there, some people I've spoken to said there might be almost too many on-ramps, too many innovation cells, where it gets almost a little confusing, right? Like, where do I go? Whose hand do I shake? Temp check on that? Where do you fall on that? Are people doing too much? Are they overcomplicating things, or is more always welcome?
I think to one degree more is welcome, and it shows that innovation is happening. To some degree, everyone has to be an innovator in the Department of Defense for this to happen. And the fact that there are so many different groups doing that, whether it's a spark cell on a base to DIU to Army Futures Command to something else, is a good thing. But we do need to better coordinate across all of those different organizations. We do a lot of work organizing what we call, of course, there's an acronym, the DICE, the Defense Innovation Community of Entities, and how are we coordinating across to understand what everyone is working on and do that together. I also think the on-ramps can continue to be even better, right? And that's been a huge focus of mine as well. How do we make sure that we're getting the right information to the right folks? So there's a lot, that's a good thing, but we need to make them better and better coordinated. Community
of entities is a very DoD phrase. I don't think you'd hear that anywhere else in this world. But at the crux of this is dual use, right? Like that is what we're going for here. A lot of people are using that word. How have you seen that phrase evolve over the years from maybe when it first came on the scene with DIUX or something like that to where we are now in 2025?
Yeah. First of all, I think that the term still works and is really important, right? Like and Certainly there are certain technologies that are just for the Defense Department, but for the vast majority, they need to be dual use. And when I talk to funders, they want to make sure that they're seeing that as well, right? You have to have that, because ultimately we want to make sure that these are viable companies commercially. And the dual use nature of that allows that. And I think it also enables the department to really pull in that commercial technology. I think how it's evolved is a more sophisticated understanding of what dual use means, right? It's not as simple as exactly what you're doing over here, you can bring over here. How you do that and which parts and which one you start with, I think there's just like a more evolved understanding of how that happens as we have get more sophisticated collectively over the last 10 years.
What do you think the next step is for dual use? What's that next big leap, you think?
I think for the department, I mean, the bigger leap is how do we take advantage of even more of that? Like there is so much more potential dual use technology out there, beyond what we're already doing that is not yet dual use. And so how do we continue to find that and bring that in? And
to your point about funders and investors and stuff, from my seat, it seems like defense tech is very hot. Everyone wants to get in on the defense tech game. Are you seeing that as well? Are you seeing an uptick? What are those conversations like, and maybe why are these people all of a sudden jumping aboard?
I think there continues to be an uptick. I mean, I was just talking to a funder this week that is not defense tech focused. They have multi-hundred billion dollar funds in them, and they're sort of selectively picking and choosing where they get involved. And we're seeing more of that, as well as focused funds in this area, and it's all incredibly exciting. Ultimately, the department needs to buy more of this for all of this to continue to happen and take off, and that's what I'm really focused on.
So in August, I spoke to DIU Director Doug Beck, who I assume you know well.
Very well.
He teased blue manufacturing at the time. It's a real thing now. As of last week, I saw the press release. What does that initiative for the vetted list of advanced manufacturing kind of earn the DoD? Why is it important? Why should people buy into this?
Yeah, I think it's the role that we're trying to play to help drive advanced manufacturing. So essentially, how we came into this is, DIU, as we have talked about, has been really critical in bringing commercial technology in. And over the last year, we were seeing that we needed to continue to think about how we're going to build up the industrial base here using advanced manufacturing, doing it completely differently. And on the one hand, you have these manufacturers over there getting after it and needing to get after it even more so that we're not as dependent on China and other places. We can do it here. And then you have defense tech companies so that they can focus on the technology. Let's think about a different way to help them scale. So we're really focusing on the how. And the marketplace is to connect those. So we are going to, it's open right now. We have well over 50 submissions already, and we're excited about how many more we're going to get in. We're going to certify those manufacturing companies, looking at them for things like supply chain risk, foreign influence, those sorts of things, put them on the marketplace so that then other companies are able to find them and they're able to make that match against each other. We're hoping to do even more in advanced manufacturing this year. We likely will have some AOIs posted, other things as well, but the manufacturing marketplace was a place to start. It also leans on a new authority that we have when we became a PSA last year, so a multi-stakeholder partnership. And it's just another example of how we're continuing to have these different authorities that allow us to work with the commercial sector in a different way.
And so those 50 companies, they have just applied right now. They're not vetted.
No, I'm just showing that within a week, there's already that much.
Do you have a sense of time of when maybe the first few might trickle in or get that stamp of approval?
We're working through all that, so in the next few months.
Okay, awesome. When it comes to defense innovation, what can the US, lawmakers, DoD, industry, folks like yourself, learn from Ukraine, right? That is always the conversation we're having in this space. What can be learned there? Let's go there.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's a tremendous amount that we are learning and that we need to continue to learn. Everything from how warfare is changing, I won't use the word again so I can keep some more bonus points, but autonomy, other areas like that. I think also the speed with which, and how quickly you have to iterate. Manufacturing, how much you can quickly build up your manufacturing base, having it close to the front line as possible. The different types of environments, the EW denied, GPS denied environments that we have to work in.
That was part of Artemis as well that you guys announced, right? The 4 companies that are doing the one-way attack drones.
Yeah. So I think it's an example of where we're building inspiration from Ukraine and moving fast. We launched a CSO just late last year for one-way attack drones called Artemis. We quickly did the down selection and picked 4 companies. 2 of them are partnering with Ukrainian companies on that as well. We're doing the integration test this month and then final test next month, and that was exactly inspired by Ukraine.
Awesome. About a minute and a half, 2 questions. We're gonna try. You guys are jumping into air logistics and optimization. Why, and what can you learn from the commercial side?
Yeah, well, we actually jumped in a few years ago on that, even more so. What we found, not surprising, is that the commercial sector is really good at figuring out how to optimize logistics and how can we take advantage of that. So we partnered with the Air Force, the Navy, and US Transcom to we brought in C3AI, Google Public Sector, and AWS to optimize logistics, to have less planes that had no one on them, empty routes, to optimize fuel, all of those different things. We found that it was incredibly helpful, right? We were able to radically reduce planning time, radically reduce the amount of fuel consumption, all of those things by using that commercial technology, and some of them are now moving into production contracts. And I know that contested logistics and how we can leverage the advances is a hot topic right now. We're hearing it and talking about it with everyone from various combatant commanders to different services, et cetera. So there'll be more. Watch this space.
Awesome. Last word here. I hear you guys will be making some news today regarding the military basing and energy production. You want to clue us in?
Yeah, so anyways, if you're not already signed up for DIU newsletter, that's a plug, so that way you can find out about it.
Yeah.
Or Future of both, actually.
Yeah.
Both you should be signed up for. So make sure you do that. But we will be announcing the winners from CSO we launched last year for nuclear microreactors on installations. And I think this is very topical right now.
Yeah, awesome. Look, we got one
Look at
second
that.
left. That was perfect.
Awesome.
Liz, thank you for your time
My
today.
pleasure. Nice to see you all. Thank you.